We bring in a friend who we've known for years and years and years. He's an author, relationship therapist, Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson.
Some expert advice on how we can all talk to them. Joining us now is relationship expert Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson. She's the author of Courageous Conversations Connect. Good morning, R.G.
Doctor, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Janelle. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And as we mentioned, a lot of people just dealing with anxiety during all of this. What are your suggestions?
Some of the things that we need to remember is that this is temporary. This is temporary inconvenience for long-term gain. And as long as we stay healthy, Janelle, then everything else is recoverable.
Talk to your children about what's happening right now. What are the best ways to do that?
There's some do's and don'ts, right? So you want to tell them that you're going to be here. We're going to be okay. Kids want to know that they're secure and they're safe. So predictability, structure, and consistency. You also want to let them know you have a plan. And even if you don't have a plan, tell them that you're working on one. Good morning, everyone. This is yours truly, Dr. RG, and this is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks every day at 10 a.m. Monday through Thursday. This is June 2nd, 2020. This is week 12 of our quarantine, and this is day 44, episode 44. Good morning. Welcome, Charla. Listen, this is our community give back as we often say, and this is what we ask you to do is just tag a friend, share this post, let other people know we're on. This is our quarantine talks. This is where we have our courageous conversations, and we got a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack today for sure. This is voting day. I have my vote shirt on. I don't know if y'all can see it. Today is the time to vote. I've seen a lot of things. We've seen a lot of things. I think we've been traumatized by a lot of things. And, you know, if we're going to make a difference, if we're going to have an impact, if we're going to take our power back, we have to vote. That's where our power is. So I'm hoping that people went out and voted or, you know, or going out to vote if they're, you know, and be safe while you're doing it simultaneously. Or if you did like Morgan and I, you sent in your early ballots. Either way, we don't have time. We have to vote like our lives depended on it. So listen, today we're going to be talking about all week. We're having emotional healing talks. And specifically today, it's riot or protest. Are they listening now? That's specifically what we're talking about. Riot or protest with everything that's going on across the country, with all of the messaging. We have to kind of get our message straight, and we have to be in solidarity with each other. White, black, yellow, polka dot, green, whatever. We need to be all standing together. All right. So listen, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and we're going to be right back. So stay with us. Good morning. This is yours truly, Dr. RG, and this is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talk. So real quick, give me some thumbs up, some hearts. We need them. We need them like forever. Like we need them now, right now. And also tag a friend and share this post going over to our YouTube page. This is being posted on YouTube, Facebook, and IG. So welcome everyone, IG family, YouTube family, Facebook family. If you have yet to do so, going over to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube page. It's Ask Dr. Argie, AskDrArgie. Why? And then hit the notification bell so that you can get notifications of all the things that we're doing and the different promotions that we're having. Also, if you're on Facebook, then type in subscribe to the message box so that you can get notifications as well. Listen, I was listening to my good friend Alex over at Fox 29 on Good Day Philly. Hey, Helen, good morning. Good morning, Charla. And she posted a conversation that she had with a little girl. The little girl was in the parking lot of the Fresh Grocer, and the Fresh Grocer had been destroyed. The Rite Aid had been vandalized, and she said, they asked her what her emotions were, and she said, I'm mad and I'm sad. How many of you all know that our children know better how they're feeling and how to express their emotions than sometimes we do? So that was real for her. And I resonated with her because I'm mad and I'm sad too, right? And I'm feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and disappointed and angry. And I feel like we're all feeling an array of emotions that we don't have space to process it all. Well, here's a space. This is the Quarantine Talks. This is a courageous conversation space where we get to process our emotions, whatever they are. Click in the chat what you're feeling right now. We have to externalize our emotions. Otherwise, we become like these ticking time bombs and our emotions go deep inside of us and we either implode or we explode. We either implode or we explode. And so we've got to find a way to channel it. We got to find a way to channel it in a healthy way. Today is voting day. Someone said they liked my t-shirt. I got this from my dear friend, Shirley Ralph Hughes. In case you all are still coming on, this is my shirt. It says vote. And we have to vote like our lives depend on it because our lives do. Karen says, I'm struggling a lot. Yesterday was harder than any other day. I couldn't focus. The visual of that could be some racist knee on my son's neck while others stand by and watch keeps me up at night. I have emotionally exhausted moments where I feel like I can't breathe. I get disgusted with the ignorant response and the defense of the racist hypocrite in the White House that I see from some white people of social media. A small part of me want to wish that they could get a small taste of what Black, I think, is like. Tanya says, I'm overwhelmed so much. Donna, amen. So I resonate with you, Karen. I resonate with you. I resonate with many of our other Black and brown brothers and sisters. I also resonate with some of our white brothers and sisters. We need you. We need you to stand with us, and not just now while the cameras are on. We need you to stand with us today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, when the cameras are all gone. We need you to stand with us. We need you to vote with us. We need to vote the racists out of office, because this is not just an isolated incident. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, they're not isolated incidents, right? They have yet to arrest anybody in the case of Breonna Taylor. It took 2 months, and the mother of Ahmaud Arbery to really push so that this would go viral in order for them to make a decision to do something. And then finally, they released the tape thinking that it would help them when they gunned down an innocent person who did nothing but run and check out a structure that was not even complete, like many of us would do if we were walking by some kind of building, if you will. So he did nothing wrong. They just finally arrested the father and the son. And in the case of George Floyd, they have only arrested the one person and did not really give him first degree murder at this point. We know that if the situation were reversed, that it would have taken a millisecond for the police to arrest a black man who had put their knee on the neck of a white man and killed him, kneed the breath and life out of him. It would have taken a millisecond. So the other three police officers need to be arrested. But I also want to say, I was on a talk with Cherry Greg last night on Real Talk with Cherry, and my good friend G. Lamar Stewart, who is an activist, who is a faith leader, and who is a law enforcement officer. He said that, former law enforcement officer, he said that not every police officer is bad. And I know that because my father was a law enforcement officer for years. He retired as a homicide detective down at the White House. He worked in Roundhouse, down at the Roundhouse, not the White House. But he also worked in Southwest Philadelphia for many, many years. And I remember during the Rizzo era where he had to stuff his emotions and his feelings because he knew that he had to come home to his wife and his children. So, you know, these emotions are running high, and we need to figure out ways to process them so that they don't erode and eat us up alive. Donna says, thanks for this platform. It's helping and healing people. Thank you, Donna. My 227 sister from Girls High. Thank you so much. Helen says, I've been feeling overwhelmed. I'm overloaded. I had to step back. I am frustrated with young brothers who are looting and destroying the communities that we live in. There is a better way to protest. Vote with the dollar. I agree. Absolutely, 100%, Helen. And I also say, this is why we're talking about riot or protest and the difference between it and are they listening now? Because those, when you look on TV, and while I do think that we need to be informed, I also think that we need to take care of our mental health, which means that we need to moderate how much we consume of the images on TV that are impacting our mental health. When you do watch, what you see is that not everybody is from the community. Not everybody looks like us. There are some, and we want our white brothers and sisters to stand with us, but we do not want our white brothers and sisters to come into our communities. And as one of my clients said, who was at the protest, a young woman yesterday, that they are placing bricks in front of windows of stores so that people will come by and have the correct equipment that they need to loot. I also saw a Black woman who was a protester yesterday who was yelling at two white women who had all Black on, who were spray painting BLM, Black Lives Matter, and down with white supremacy. They were spray painting that on a Starbucks. Then they started arguing with the protesters because the protesters said, when you all leave our neighborhoods, they're going to blame us. They're going to think that we put all that graffiti on the buildings, Black Lives Matter. So I want us to be conscious and aware that everyone does not have the same agenda and that there are other people that are coming into these communities. There are nationalist groups, there are white supremacist groups, there are persons who really want to create disruption in our communities and then they leave. They are leaving our communities left with Rite Aids and pharmacies and grocery stores and that had fought so hard to have, you know, fresh grocers and stores in our communities, and they are being decimated. And by the way, we are doing exactly what some of the other folks, their agenda is. We're sometimes following and swallowing. And so we're seeing it as an opportunity if we don't have anything to take. But what I say is don't take, vote. Don't take, vote. This is what we have to do. And we have to keep talking about this so we can process, because our lives and the lives of our children who are deserving of good health care and mental health care, just like anybody else, they are deserving. And they're not deserving of being racially profiled, or walking down the street being fearful because of their color of their skin. That they're going to be bird watching, and somebody's going to call the cops and say that I'm going to tell them that you as an African American person, male, is harassing me or threatening me, using it as a weapon against our people. This is wrong. We are the human race. We are all deserving. And so we got to process what's going on with us. Exactly. Helen says, wow, those women were wrong. So sad. And it's not just, Charla said that it's not just those women. We're seeing it. Just pay attention to what y'all are seeing. You can tell the people that are in that community, in the protests that have been planted there. There's, as my cousin Britt said yesterday, there's tickets that are being bought. There's air flight tickets that are being bought for them to bring those persons to our communities to vandalize it, and then they leave. So there is, I believe, a difference between peaceful protest. I believe that there's a difference between protest overall and rioting. MLK said riots are the language of the unheard. We do understand that, right? Many of us have not been heard. And this institutionalized, last week, we talked about building bridges and breaking barriers. And this is not a conversation that needs to happen one time. It's a conversation that needs to happen over and over and over, because when you look at the streets in our cities all across the country today, they don't look that different than back in the 1960s. Yeah, they don't look that different. We got to figure this out, guys. There's some folk on IG in our IG family.
Yeah, Allison says, my neighbor who is white rang the doorbell yesterday. She handed me a plate of cookies and said, I did some baking. I said, thank you. Hugged my neighbor, then went in my house and sobbed.
Gotcha. Thank you, Allison. Thank you. I want to share something about those tears, because I shed some tears yesterday too. Tears are a way for us to release the pent-up frustration, the anger, the pain, the disappointment that is inside of us. And tears are good for the soul. Allow yourselves to cry. Allow yourselves to grieve. Allow yourself to breathe. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel. In order to heal, you have to feel, but you cannot heal what you don't reveal. We're going to do our breathing. I've been on a little bit of a longer rant than I normally am on, but we're going to do some breathing. Tell me who you're breathing for. This week, all week, I'm breathing for the family of George Floyd. I'm breathing for the family of Ahmaud Arbery. I'm breathing for the family of Breonna Taylor. I'm also breathing for those protesters, the peaceful ones, and the law enforcement officers that are out there putting their lives on the line for us, because not all police officers are bad. We do need community police reform, and we need a better community policing so that the community is connected with our law enforcement officers. So those are the persons that I'm breathing for. Who are you breathing for today? Even if you're breathing for yourself, say that. If you're breathing for yourself because you've had some anxiety and a lot of shallow breathing because of the things that are going on in the world that have caused you to feel anxious, then please say that you're breathing for yourself today. Put your fingers on your thumbs on your middle finger, your hands on one hand on the other or on your sides. Get a little relaxed. And remember, all this week, we are breathing not for 10 seconds. We're doing 5 breaths 5 times, but we're holding it for 8 seconds in honor of George Floyd, in which he dealt with the atrocity of the murder in plain sight, where the officer, I shouldn't even call him an officer, he's not worthy of that, held his knee on his neck for more than 8 minutes. All right, Kim. Good morning, Kim. I'm breathing for mothers who have lost their Black sons to police brutality. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We watched mothers on CNN yesterday talking about the loss of their children. So thank you for that. At the sound of my voice, I'm going to count to 3. And I'm going to breathe in, hold it for 8 seconds, breathe out. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide. Breathe in serenity and peace and love. Breathe out anxiety, fear, and frustration. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And last time, make it count. Breathe in. And breathe out. That felt good. Please continue to do that throughout the day. It's going to help you to expand your lung capacity, but it's also going to help to ground you. Carla said, I'm breathing for myself as I feel the physical manifestation of grief. Yeah. I hear you, Carla. I hear you. Grief is real. Grief needs to be honored. We mourn, but the mourning that we're having, the grieving that we're having is not specifically in just the loss of physical life. We're also grieving the years and years and years of us not, as Black and brown people, having equity, being treated with the same principles of humanity as others. We're grieving the loss of the ways in which we have not received justice over the years, and it's still live and unwell, racism. And we have our own fears and our own concerns and our own worries. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, guys, by the way. COVID-19 is still taking people. That has kind of gotten off the radar, but there are people that are still dying. And quite frankly, there is going to be an uptick of that. So we're fighting 2 viruses here. I'm going to talk about that later in the week. We're fighting COVID-19 still in a pandemic. We actually were poised to begin to open up gradually, moving from red to yellow to green in some of the cities. And now, where is there really to go? Because if the cities open up, then the stores are now decimated and vandalized. And we're having to repair, restore, refuel so that we can go back out there. So it's a very, very challenging time that we are in. I think we need to stay prayed up. Tell me your story. If you've had some conversations with your loved ones, if you've had some conversations with your children, if you've had some conversations, some courageous conversations with yourself about the difference between rioting and protesting. Because again, Martin Luther King said that riots are the language of the unheard. Part of what is happening is we are not feeling heard for 400 years, right? That this is a travesty that we came onto this earth as a human race, right? We got here, we got deposited here through the grace of God as human beings. And yet, due to the social constructivist rationale of hatred and bigotry and difference and racism, we are now in a space where we are divided and certainly not united. Today, Don said, I'm breathing for all the families and friends that have lost loved ones at the hands of police brutality. Yes. And by the way, Will Smith said yesterday that racism is not new, it's filmed. So that is the difference maker today. It is different today because it's filmed. And there's so much more. Morgan and I watched a post today where there was a man who was a black FBI agent. He was just sitting in front of the restaurant smoking a cigarette, and they tried to arrest him because they said he looked like somebody that they thought that had done something wrong. Once they put handcuffs on this man and looked at his ID, they found out that he was a black FBI agent. They let him go, absolutely, but not before they had egg on their face because they had thought that he looked like someone. So yesterday we talked about when is enough enough? When is enough enough? I think we've reached our tipping point. We've reached our turning point. This is our watershed moment. You know, we have to decide whether we're on the right side of history today, right? Has everybody voted? This is my T-shirt that I'm wearing. It says vote. I got it from my good friend Shirley Ralph. And if we don't vote, we can't complain. If we don't vote, we lose our power. We give our power away. And as that little girl said on Fox 29 today on Good Day Philly, talking to Brittany Johnson, she said, I'm sad and I'm mad. I don't understand why people are tearing these things, tearing up the places where we need to go to the store and where we need to eat food. Why? She didn't understand. We do have to have a conversation with our children. Everybody's talked for years about the talk. How do you talk to your sons or your daughters when they go outside the door? How do you talk to them about what they need to do to fight another day? If they should get stopped by the cops, if they should be racially profiled, if they should find themselves in harm's way by the very people that are supposed to protect them. We got to do better, y'all. Enough is enough. And the people need to be heard, but we also need to be smart about it. We need to be strategic. We need to strategize. We need to organize. We need to mobilize. We need to vote, right? Vote with a purpose. We need to plan, right? You know, some protests sometimes are not properly planned, but you know what? You know who is planning? White supremacists are planning. White nationalists are planning. They're plotting. They're organizing. They're mobilizing, and they come into our communities and they decimate our communities under the guise of an agenda. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. This is a time for us to really process. I saw a post yesterday from a very, very good friend of mine, one of my HU family, who said that perhaps the pandemic was an opportunity for us to sit still and refuel for the real fight. I thought that was really interesting. And the question is that, you know, I know we're tired. I know that we feel like we have not been heard, but we cannot give up the fight. And we have to fight strategically. What does that look like? It looks like we find that space within ourselves to refuel, to restore, to revitalize, to repair, because the system is going to, the stores are going to have to be repaired, but we also going to have to be, have restoration and reparation within our hearts, spirits, and souls in order to go back out there and do this fight. And it looks like voting. Vote the racist, the persons who do not serve your community well, out. Vote them out. My friend, my Sans, Leola Hardy, she posted a letter. I'm going to see if I can find it. And I reposted it today. This is from Joseph C. Gale, commissioner in Montgomery County. I'm going to read a little part of this. I wish I had put it on here, but I'm going to read a little part of this. Press statement, riots and looting in Philadelphia, he says. What we saw this weekend in Philadelphia was not a protest. It was a riot. This is what he says. In fact, nearly every major city across the nation was ravaged by looting, violence, and arson. The perpetrators of this urban domestic terror, he calls it domestic terror, are radical left-wing hate groups like Black Lives Matter. He calls Black Lives Matter a radical left-wing hate group. This organization in particular screams racism not to expose bigotry and injustice, but to justify lawless destruction of our cities and surrounding communities. Their objective is to unleash chaos and mayhem without consequence by falsely claiming they, in fact, are victims. For years, our police and men and women have been demonized and degraded by the radical left as a result of the defamation and character assassination, as well as a complicit media constantly pushing the bogus narrative of systemic police brutality and white racism. Law enforcement is afraid to do their job of protecting innocent people and their property. In addition, too many Democrat mayors are sympathizers of the far left radical enemy combatants. As a result, their misguided empathy has enabled a level of unfettered criminality never witnessed before in American history. Sadly, Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney falls in the category of sympathetic Democratic mayors, and his hand-picked Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Danielle Outlaw, seems to share her boss's sentiment. Frankly, the name Outlaw fits her to a T. This past weekend, I watched television coverage of police officers being ordered to stand down as the statue of Frank Rizzo was spray painted, lit on fire, and attempted to be pulled down. The only way to stop this vandalism and chaos is by allowing law enforcement to do their job of enforcing the law. Otherwise, so-called peaceful protests end up escalating into violence, arson, and looting. Police cannot continue to give space to opportunists and law breakers. Because, as they say, if you give an inch, they will take a foot. We need law and order. We need leaders who will uphold the laws that they swore to defend when they place their hand on the Holy Bible on Inauguration Day. The broken promises of the failed Democrat leaders like Jim Kenney have led not to just broken windows, but to broken public trust that must be restored before more cities are shattered. This was from Joseph C. Gale, Commissioner in Montgomery County. We need to vote him out.
Yeah. So, give my 2 cents. While I came on yesterday and I shared with you that who are we to kind of judge people who are looting because they're in pain or without, combined with the pandemic that's happening and the forced quarantine where people financially can't pay their bills, et cetera. So it's like an amalgamation. It's like a soupy mix and the perfect storm for the negative and the toxic. However, the flip side is that we are giving them fuel and giving them the excuse. All they need is a little excuse. They really need no excuse, but we're giving them the excuse to call us barbarians and so forth and so on. Because these guys are organized, they're running around in their cars, text messaging, like a band, organized band, plotting out and scheming out specific stores and locations that they can go in and maraud, go in and loot. All right. So they are pure antagonists, provocateurs, and advantage takers. So they are giving them the reason to, or the excuse to call us that. And what you have now also is, which was on national TV, now you have certain neighborhoods, say, listen, this is not going to happen to us. And especially in Fishtown and those other neighborhoods, specific in the Philadelphia area, where there's people fighting back. The business owners are taking matters in their own hands. They're having guns and weapons to protect their property.
They stormed a gun shop in I think South Philly
So,
yesterday, and the gun owner shot the persons that came in to loot them.
correct.
And killed them.
So the reality is that, you got to understand what's happening here. They want a war. This is the narrative that our current president wants to have happen because now he can galvanize his constituents, his base, to do his bidding. Again, the key thing is this is what they wanted, and he's taking the opportunity to manipulate a horrible situation and turn it around to make it political. And these guys are basically giving them the ammunition to do so. So while we have to sit back and figure out what is the right balance to give voice to the pain that we're experiencing as a people, and understand that people are going to express that pain, and sometimes in protest, and sometimes protest gets violent. But is it at some point does it go too far, and then it becomes counter against us? And this is what I'm afraid of is that we had the momentum going against him, and it was looking like 45. We may have opportunity to get him out of there. But now he has the opportunity to take this thing, change the narrative, spin it, and kind of gin up his base. This is a major argument that's being out there, and we have to have the conversation around, what is the right balance to give voice, but also, when you take it too far, we got to also come back and also challenge that these guys are, many of them, not all, again, got to separate it. These guys are, some guys are taking advantage of the situation, and they're going around hitting these spots in certain neighborhoods. And I don't know. We have to find a way to speak to them and make them understand that they basically are really killing the right voices, and really causing us to, get veer off and damage the movement. And because they're gonna tag Antifa, they're gonna tag BLM, they're gonna tag it with all that, and lump it all together because it fits their agenda and it fits their narrative, Mm-hmm. So we got to figure out a way to stop it, and maybe we need brothers to step up. And like many of those store owners, like in Minnesota, what they were doing, you saw people out there coming in front of the CVS, in front of the Rite Aid, in front of the Walgreens. Say, listen, no, you can't do this. You're not from my neighborhood. You're just rolling bandits, coming in neighborhoods that you don't belong to doing this. So, there's something to think about. That's all. Something to think about.
Thank you, babe. Daryl says, there is to be a moment of accountability. Although I understand the protest and agree that change has to happen, however, there has to be a real strategy. Agreed. This is about strategizing, organizing, mobilizing. It's about voting, right? We got to vote. If we don't vote, right? If we don't vote, our voice doesn't count. That's really what happens. If we don't vote, our voice does not count. So we have to vote. But then there's also how to process this pain. The riots, although it's a mixed bag of different people with different agendas, the majority of the people that are out during the day are peacefully protesting. They're engaging with the police officers. Even some of the police officers are taking a knee and really connecting. I've seen a lot of voices of both Black and white police officers and Asian and Latina police officers that are speaking out against the atrocities. It's time. It's time for us all to speak up, speak out, and show up. All right, we're going to keep this conversation going. When we come back on the other end, we're going to talk about the ways that you talk with your children specifically about riot and protest and how we will grow through this. Stay with us. Hey, this is Dr. RG here again, and welcome to, if you're just joining, this is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks. We're here every Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Please tag a friend, share this post, let other people know that we're on this platform. We're living in really difficult times right now between the two viruses, COVID-19 and racism. And with all that's going on, we need safe spaces to talk about this, to process, so that we can live to fight another day. And so we're here with our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. Again, tag a friend, share this post, going over to YouTube page and hit subscribe. We've got content over there, as well as just typing subscribe into the message box. Give us some thumbs up and some hearts We need them now. We need us to be connected. And we've got people in our IG family.
Yeah, before you do that, tell those who are on YouTube that they have to hit the thumbs up on YouTube. So thumbs up on YouTube.
Hit the thumbs up on YouTube, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. But they may think it's different as opposed to Facebook. That's why I'm saying they don't do it. So I just
Okay.
make
Okay.
that
Okay.
distinction. Okay. So IG love. Let's see. Miss Jenny Pauline 85 says, I cried so much in bed with my mom last night. I am deeply saddened and exhausted for being on the front lines. Got very little sleep, but I am alive and out work. And out work.
We're at working.
And out work. I guess out working. You got it.
Okay.
Got my mask. Got my boat mask on and my boat tee under my uniform. Got it. Okay. Thank you, Pauline. Miss Jen Pauline.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm glad you're home. You got home safely yesterday. Being able to lay in the bed with you. I wish I could lay in the bed with my mama. We used to do that all the time. But I got my hubby. I got my hubby. So listen, we're going to shift gears for a moment. And I want to talk about how do you talk to your children about riots and protesting. It hit my heart this morning when I saw that little girl in the parking lot. And she was sad and mad about what was happening. And I don't think that, remember, your brain is not fully developed until about 23, 24. And so subsequently, at that age, she spoke so eloquently, but it's very hard to process. We're trying to figure out how to make sense out of the nonsense and to process all the various different agendas that are going on right now. And so it's very, very difficult for children to process this and to think about, well, what is the difference between the riots and people vandalizing and peaceful protests and those various agendas? And so, if you are engaging with your young children, I want you to keep your keep an open door policy. Ask open-ended questions like, how are you feeling? Be willing to share how you're feeling. Tell your story to them about perhaps when you participated in a protest. Talk about multiple different ways to protest, right? There's resistance, and that's a protest. And then there's peaceful protest. And then there's voting protest. There's lots of ways. On June 7th, there is the blackout protest where all Black and brown people are being asked not to put your dollars in other establishments, but to stay within the Black community because we have small businesses that are suffering within our communities as well. There's lots of different ways to protest. And it's also, it's important to talk with your children about emotion. Quite frankly, they know more about it than we do sometimes, right? This young lady said, that little girl said, I'm mad and I'm sad. And it is okay to give yourself permission to feel. Pauline was on talking about crying with her mother. It is okay to give yourself permission to feel whatever you feel and to have an outward expression of if you're angry or you're upset or you're disappointed or you're frustrated or you're mad or you're sad. Those tears can flow, and it's really okay to allow your children to know that you're human, that in this moment you're not feeling so well. Right? Because what happens is we become the ticking time bombs that eventually explode if we don't allow ourselves to express that emotion like a hot air balloon. I had done a segment, and I think I need to post that segment again on the Mel Robbins show, where we had several different balloons, and one was a big balloon that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you pop it because there's nowhere else for the emotion to go. And then you have the balloon as a symbol that it just kind of stays there and it implodes from the outside in, which then focuses on depression. Quite frankly, the person gets depressed and sad and, is not able to function in its normal capacity. And then there's the balloon that you kind of gradually let the air out of. That is the healthier person. We need to do this for ourselves. We need to do this for our children. We need to engage in self-care, which means prayer. For many persons, of faith and spiritual persons being able to pray that there's a power greater than ourselves that ultimately, as I say, for me, while I'm trying to figure it out, God has already worked it out. Doing some mindfulness and meditation. That's not just for COVID-19. That's for right now when we're in a state of emergency in our cities where people are experiencing lots of pain. Would journal so that you can externalize those feelings and acknowledge that they are valid. Part of why people are protesting and rioting in many ways is because they don't feel like their voices and their emotions and their personhood has been valued. And in fact, it's been devalued and it's been marginalized and oppressed and degraded over the years in ways that are unequitable, so that the cards have been stacked against us in all kinds of places, from the higher levels of the C-suite to the lower levels of the street suite, right? As John Hope Bryant says. And so all over, wherever you are, many people are struggling with the fact that we have been disenfranchised for no other reason. That has to be processed. We have to keep the conversations going, and we have to give ourselves permission to feel. And sometimes that happens on social media. Morgan posted yesterday morning when he was feeling all kinds of emotions and just talked about it. I think that can be a very powerful tool that we can use in a healthy way.
All right, real quick, I wanted to remind everybody something I should have done the other day, and I forgot to do it. But we called and asked many of you guys for the last couple of weeks to type in the word subscribe in the message box of Facebook. But the part that I failed to say was that you were going to get an email asking you to confirm, or you need to confirm your email. So please check your inbox and your email that you should have received something. If not, I'm going to actually go back for those who subscribe or type and subscribe and just send you another email reminding you to confirm your email, because that's really a key step, an important step for us. Okay. Wanted to just bring that to your attention. Dow reminded me I needed to do that, and I didn't do so. So thank you for holding me accountable, Daryl. That's what we pay you for.
Listen, we can't do this without Daryl. He is our Swiss Army knife, as we call it, because he knows everything. I'm like, just call Daryl. Just call Daryl.
But I wanted to also, besides that, also share with you, and I don't even think you know this, babe. This morning I got started last night. My daughter kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm not feeling so good. I'm really feeling stressed out about this whole thing." And then I got a disturbing call this morning early, and she was just really riddled with anxiety and stress. For many of you, you may know, some may not know, RG and I are grandparents to a bubbling, beautiful, wonderful baby boy, Jace. And so it's my daughter's first time as a parent. And so she's filled with all the normal anxieties or feelings of being a first-time mom. But combined with all this, it's really adding a lot of anxiety and stress to her. And what we may not be realizing is that babies being born every day for the last 90 days through this whole pandemic of COVID. And there is an added amount of stress and anxiety for first-time mothers, or just mothers, period, who are giving birth to children within this this world that we're living in. And now we have this huge disruption or eruption of chaos because of a senseless killing of a Black man by another white cop. So I say that to say that many of the family members are probably going to be hurting out there for very, very reasons, if you will. And it comes in waves. You may have one day, you may have a couple of days where somebody's doing fine, and all of a sudden it's just going to hit them. I mean, like a ton of bricks is going to hit that person. And we just have to be there for them and reach out to them. I would say, shameless plug, have them come and tune in. If they can tune in to this platform of Courageous Conversations Connect Space, Quarantine Talks. This platform is designed to give people the space and the opportunity to express themselves in a way, just like RG expressed and illustrated a moment ago about these 3 balloons. There's healthy ways and unhealthy ways to deal with the anxiety and stresses that we're dealing with. We know that the balloons are going to fill, so we can't stop that. But what ways do we have to ease the pressure pressure valves, releasing the pressure. We know pressure busts pipes. And right now, many pipes are bursting because there's really no ease of the pressure. That's what we're suffering with as a community and as a people. Pipes are bursting everywhere when there's no relief valve, if you will. So I would say to you, much prayer, much power, little prayer, little power. Prayer works, but also faith without works is dead. We know that. And the work we need, which RG has continually said, and I've been saying, you got to talk to folks and encourage, especially those young folks who don't understand or believe in the power of voting, that voting works. Voting is powerful. We have to continue to send that message home and drive it home every day and as often as we can, because it does matter. Legislation matters. So I want to just share that with you. I got the call this morning, and I had to really love on my daughter, minister to her, and share with her, express to her that everything's going to be all right, that I'm there as a father, I'm there as a grandfather, to ease her pain and anxiety. I mean, she was talking things like, I got to get out of this country. I've really been looking at exploring other countries, stuff like that. I could have shrugged it off. Yeah. America's great. America overall, compared to any other country, is the greatest country in the world. Yes, that's true. But when I really thought about it, listen, if we don't exercise our vote and we get another 4 more years of what we had for the past 4 more years with this individual, just understand what we have experienced over the past 4 years and how much damage he has caused. How much more will it be if he gets another 4 years? We won't know America as what we've known it before. Again, with all its flaws and all its issues, we all know that comparative to everything else, greatest country in the world. But trust and believe, if we get 4 more years, we might not be able to hold that title to say that. So I had to really talk my daughter off a ledge this morning to have her understand, because she's young. I mean, she's not a young girl, but she's young enough, to not understand what's happening. Their future, they realize in the moment, hangs in the balance, And so anyway, that's again my 2 cents. Wanted to share that with you guys. What does Bartley have to say? What's Bartley saying?
So Bartley says, thanks. We all need effective ways to express all the emotions we are feeling. Additionally, our teenagers are struggling with how to process all of this. Let's not forget to give parents tools to help this conversation. And by the way, I love the balloon analogy. Yeah, so that's good, Bishop Bartley. There's a conversation to be had on multiple levels. 1, how do we have a conversation with ourselves? 2, how do we have a conversation with our children, and our young children and older children? As Morgan was talking about with his daughter, she's not a baby, she's not a teenager, but she is a young woman that just had a child and is now becoming more conscious, right? Mm-hmm. So James Baldwin said, I said this yesterday, to be a Negro in this country, this was many years ago, is to be relatively conscious, is to be in a state of rage almost all the time, right? So think about that, what that does to your body, what that does to your parasympathetic nervous system, what that does to your ecosystem. Mind, body, and spirit is all connected if you're in a state of rage. And this is why people anesthetize themselves. This is why they just do the drugs or drink. I'm not condoning any of those negative ways of coping. We can find positive ways to cope, but I'm just giving a rationale for why people sort of check out, because they don't want to deal with the state of consciousness that allows them to feel so rageful and so fearful. Can you imagine those 2 emotions, being enraged and simultaneously being in fear? That's not a good combination. So when we talk about, especially what Bishop Bartley said about how to talk with your children, I want people to do some things. First, create an atmosphere of safety, right? In order for your children to talk to you, you've got to create this atmosphere of safety to help to decrease their anxiety. I saw Bishop Bartley having a little bit of fun this weekend. Morgan showed me where you were cooking, Bishop Bartley, and you were challenging somebody else. So, whatever the common thread is that allows us to be connected to our children, create that atmosphere. Then allow them make sure that they have the permission to talk it out. We talk things out so that we don't act it out. So I say talk it out so you don't act it out or act it in, to distinguish fact from fiction, because children have, and we all, quite frankly, have a lot of questions about what's fact and what's fiction. There's so many different pieces of information going around, and sometimes we don't know the answer. So that's where our spirituality comes in, to be prayerful for what is the correct conversation to have, what is the correct direction to go. Share your story. It's important for us to share our stories. This is why we have this platform on here where we can all share our stories. And for young people, they need to know when was the time that you stood up? When was the time when you were oppressed? When was a time where, well, we're all oppressed all the time if you're Black and brown, but when specifically do you have something to share with them that allows them to know, guess what? I not only survived, but perhaps I thrived even after that. And then I begin to allow them to share their stories so that you give them permission to feel and to honor their emotions. Those are just a few things that you can share with them, or kind of set the atmosphere to have these courageous conversations, if you will, about what's going on in this country. All right, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We'll be right back. We're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to wrap up with a little piece from Courageous Conversations, Enough is Enough. Thank you. All right, this is Dr. RG here, yours truly, from the Courageous Conversations Connect space, where we are having our quarantine talks. So tag a friend, share this post, go over to the YouTube page, subscribe, hit the notification bell, if you will, and also type subscribe if you're on Facebook in the message center, and then respond, if you will. Don says, praying for your daughter's well-being, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and physically. Thank you so much, Don. I want to wrap with an excerpt from Courageous Conversations Connect. If never before, I wrote this book before the pandemic, before all of this stuff that has gone on with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. It's time to have some courageous conversations, crew. This tagline, a pathway to reset your mindset with intentional thoughts from the inside out. We have to be intentional, and we have to reset our mindset. We have to prepare ourselves for the fight that we are embarking on. And so the last week of this is about enough. It's entitled Enough. And it says, be thankful that you are more than enough. I'm just going to read the first excerpt as we close out. We have many messages in the world that offer the narrative that we aren't good enough and that we have nothing to offer. But the truth is, if you are here, you are here on purpose. Yet it's not enough for others to believe that you are enough. You have to own your own real estate and believe that you are more than enough. Once you make this transformation, you will begin to live your limitless life with less fear and with less unlimited expectation in anticipation of your next levels, and with the unlimited expectation and anticipation of your next levels. So there's a couple things that I say here. Stop apologizing for staying in your own lane. Strengthen your health, mind, body, and spirit. Breathe, inhale, exhale, release, and celebrate you. And finally, embrace living your best life on purpose. Well, in the midst of a pandemic and in the midst of this country being in a state of emergency, it's hard to believe that. It's hard to realize that. But I fundamentally believe that we've had enough. And when we feel like enough is enough and we've had enough, then we need to double down to level up on what matters most, which is our family, our community, I saw the my good friend, Senator Hughes in West Philly yesterday cleaning up, saying, this is our community and we will not let you have it. We will not let you have our community. We will not let you have our minds, body, and spirit. We will stay prayed up. We will stay connected in our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins, and we will win this fight. We will not just survive, we will thrive. But we got to vote. We got to believe in ourselves. We got to believe in each other. And we have to continue this fight. We're in it. We might as well stay in it and continue to work together, right? We love you guys. We hope that this has been helpful for you in this platform, Quarantine Talks. We're going to continue tonight. Tonight I'm going to be on the Charlie Lewis show, specifically talking about how to heal from trauma. So tune in at 8. Is it 8 o'clock? Yeah. Tune in at 8 o'clock on his Facebook page, Charlie Lewis Jr., I believe, and I'll see you then. Okay. We have some other media stuff coming up that's not specifically today. I think I'm going to be doing some taping today. So I'll tell you specifically when those things are going to air. I'm going to repost some stuff that we've been doing, and Cherry Gregg is going to be on here on this platform, Quarantine Talks, tomorrow morning with us. So tune in. We're going to be talking. Cherry Gregg is she's been doing an amazing job in really, if you
she doesn't like when I interrupt her like that. It throws her off. It makes her angry. You see her face just change. It's like she just like, okay, here we go. But it's my job. I'm a producer. Let me produce. That's all.
You want to say that?
I'm in trouble, guys. I'm in the doghouse now.
But it's okay. Okay, I love you. I love you anyway.
Look, it is what it is. If you're going to promote it, you got to promote it correctly. So Cherry Gregg is a KYW contributor. She's been doing real boots on the ground, rogue, roughneck, really reporting the news in terms of how the looting and stuff is going on neighborhood by neighborhood. She goes right in. She's not on the outskirts. Cherry Gregg does the yeoman's work. So we want to have her on tomorrow so she can really tell us and kind of speak to our audience, our platform, what her experience has been and what she's been seeing from the horse's mouth. So you're going to get an exclusive from the person that's been on the ground making it work. So tell all your friends and family to tune in tomorrow, because we're going to have Cherry Gregg, none other than one and only Cherry Gregg, to be on the platform tomorrow to kind of give her perspective to our audience, our platform, what's been happening and what she's been seeing on the ground, specifically as it pertains to Philadelphia. All right. That's pretty much what I want to do. All right. That's it, babe. I love you.
I love you too, babe. All right, guys. Listen, we love you too. There's nothing you can do about it. Have a beautiful day on purpose, from our heart to yours, and we'll see you tomorrow.